Germany in the 1930s was a nation in turmoil. The First World War had left its people deeply scarred. Millions were dead. The economy was in ruins. People were hungry and desperate. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended the war, was seen as a humiliating defeat. Germany was forced to accept blame for the war. It had to pay huge reparations, crippling its economy further. In this climate of despair and resentment, a charismatic leader emerged: Adolf Hitler. He was a powerful speaker who promised to restore Germany to its former glory. Hitler offered simple solutions to complex problems. He blamed the Jews and other minorities for Germany's misfortunes. Many Germans, desperate for change, were drawn to his message of hate and hope. They were tired of feeling like losers. They wanted someone to blame for their suffering. Hitler provided an easy answer. Hitler started his political career in the beer halls of Munich. He joined a small fringe group called the National Socialist Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming its leader in 1921. Hitler was a mesmerizing speaker. He knew how to work a crowd. He used simple language and powerful imagery to appeal to people's emotions. His speeches were full of anger, resentment, and promises of a better future. He tapped into the deep-seated frustrations of the German people. He offered them a scapegoat for their problems: the Jews, communists, and liberals. He blamed them for Germany's defeat in World War I and its economic woes. Hitler's message resonated with many Germans. They were looking for someone to lead them out of the darkness. Hitler offered them a seductive vision of a strong, proud, and racially pure Germany. Propaganda played a crucial role in Hitler's rise to power. He understood the power of media to shape public opinion. He appointed Joseph Goebbels as his Minister of Propaganda and Public Enlightenment. Goebbels was a master of manipulation. He used every means at his disposal to control the flow of information. He took over newspapers, radio stations, and film studios. He used them to spread Nazi ideology and demonize Hitler's opponents. Nazi propaganda was relentless and pervasive. It was everywhere, in newspapers, on the radio, in films, and on posters. It presented a distorted view of reality. It glorified Hitler and the Nazi Party. It portrayed Jews and other minorities as enemies of the state. This constant barrage of propaganda had a powerful effect on the German people. It created an atmosphere of fear and suspicion. It made it difficult for people to think critically or question the Nazi regime. Hitler understood the power of spectacle. He used mass rallies and public events to create a sense of awe and excitement. These rallies were carefully orchestrated to evoke a sense of power and unity. The Nazi Party rallies were massive events. Hundreds of thousands of people would gather to hear Hitler speak. These rallies were carefully staged theatrical productions. They featured marching bands, flags, banners, and torchlight parades. The rallies were designed to overwhelm the senses and stir up emotions. The sight of thousands of people united in their support of Hitler was intoxicating. It created a sense of belonging and purpose. These rallies were not just about listening to speeches. They were about experiencing the power of the Nazi movement firsthand. They were about being swept up in the collective fervor of the crowd. Section 5. The Cult of Personality. Crafting the image of a savior. Hitler cultivated a cult of personality. He presented himself as the savior of Germany. He was portrayed as a strong, decisive leader who could restore Germany to its former glory. Propaganda portrayed Hitler as a man of the people. He was often shown interacting with children and workers. This was designed to make him seem relatable and approachable. In reality, Hitler was a ruthless dictator. Hitler's image was carefully controlled. He was always photographed from flattering angles. His speeches were carefully scripted. His personal life was kept hidden from the public. This carefully constructed image of Hitler as a messianic figure resonated with many Germans. They were desperate for a leader who could offer them hope and salvation. Section 6. Sowing seeds of fear. The role of the SA and the SS. Hitler used fear and intimidation to silence his opponents. He had two paramilitary organizations at his disposal, the Sturmabteilung or SA and the Schutzstaffel or SS. These groups were responsible for much of the violence and terror that characterized the Nazi regime. The SA, also known as the Brown Shirts, were Hitler's street thugs. They were used to intimidate and attack political opponents. They disrupted meetings, beat up protesters, and vandalized property. The SS, initially Hitler's personal bodyguard, evolved into a powerful and feared organization. They were responsible for running the concentration camps and carrying out the Holocaust. The SA and the SS created a climate of fear in Germany. People were afraid to speak out against the Nazis. They knew that they could be arrested, tortured, or even killed. This fear was essential to the Nazis' grip on power. Section 7. Silencing dissent, repression, and the police state. Once in power, the Nazis moved quickly to consolidate their control. They banned all other political parties, effectively establishing a one-party state. They abolished freedom of the press and freedom of assembly. The Nazis created a vast surveillance state. The Gestapo, the secret police, spied on citizens. They infiltrated organizations, intercepted mail, and tapped telephones. People were encouraged to denounce their neighbors and colleagues for any sign of disloyalty. The Nazis used the legal system to silence their opponents. They created special courts to try political crimes. These courts were kangaroo courts. They were designed to deliver guilty verdicts. Thousands of people were imprisoned without trial. This systematic repression effectively crushed all opposition to the Nazi regime. People were too afraid to speak out. They knew that dissent would be met with swift and brutal punishment. Section 8. The price of loyalty, conformity, and complicity. Loyalty to Hitler was not just expected, it was enforced. The Nazis created a culture of conformity. Children were indoctrinated in schools. They were taught to worship Hitler and embrace Nazi ideology. Joining the Nazi Party was encouraged. It provided access to jobs and opportunities. It was a way to demonstrate one's loyalty to the regime. However, membership also made people complicit in the regime's crimes. Many Germans turned a blind eye to the regime's excesses. They convinced themselves that it was better not to know. Others justified their silence by claiming that they were just following orders. The Nazi regime relied on the complicity of ordinary Germans. By staying silent, they allowed the horrors of the Nazi regime to unfold. Section 9. Conclusion: the legacy of manipulation and the importance of critical thinking. Hitler's rise to power was a testament to the power of manipulation. He used propaganda, fear, and violence to bend the will of a nation. He exploited people's fears and prejudices to achieve his own ambitions. The legacy of Nazi Germany is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of critical thinking. It shows how easily a nation can succumb to propaganda and fear. It is a lesson that we must never forget. We must be vigilant in defending our freedoms. We must challenge those who seek to divide us with hate and fear. We must never stop questioning those in power.